Junk miles. Are some miles just not worth running? Does every run have equal value? Let's head into this minefield and try to clear things up. Hello and welcome back to The Vegan Runner. Now, when I started running in 2017, there was a lot of chat about something called junk miles amongst runners, online and in popular running magazines. And at the time, I took it to mean slow mileage, maybe at a pace that doesn't really get your heart rate up, and a workout where you don't feel like you've put in the effort, or maybe one where you're not sort of bent over double at the end trying to catch your breath whilst trying not to throw up at the side of the trail. So then on the other end of that scale, I was also hearing and reading from coaches and runners that junk miles aren't necessarily slow runs, but instead a workout without a purpose. So a run where you just lace up and head out of the door. Maybe you take it easy, or maybe you go hard, or change it up within the workout. You're not thinking about tempo pace, zone 3 or lactate threshold. You're just running and clocking up a few miles. So is there such a thing as junk miles, and if so, which is closer to the truth? Should every run have a purpose, be on the plan and be run in certain zones? Or should we avoid running when it's too easy and the workout doesn't leave us a hot, sweaty mess at the end? Now, as I said, when I started running, almost all of my running was fast. After a warm-up, I'd hit zone 3, 4 or 5, and I'd try to hang out there for the rest of my run. Now, if there was a Strava segment on the route, I'd try and run it harder and faster than I did last time, and only slowed down if there was a chance of recovering and catching my breath before the next segment came up and I could put in another race pace effort to climb up that leaderboard. Saturday's park run wasn't much of a change there and was almost always a PB attempt, and for quite a while I enjoyed watching some pretty solid results. My park run times were gradually coming down, my mileage was slowly creeping up, and I was beginning to claim a few top spots on some segments in my local area. There was only one issue though, and that's injury. I could go for about 3 to 6 months seeing good progress, then an injury would occur and it would set me back for a couple of months. Then I'd build back up again, get back to shaving some seconds off that 5k PB, and then, more often than not, injured again. Now I was doing all of the things, so I was warming up, cooling down, foam rolling, stretching, eating well. I was adding a lot of specific speed work sessions into my running as well, so I loved hill reps, a kilometre repeats at target race pace, and 200 metre sprints, that kind of thing. So what was going on? So I later came to discover that my problem really stemmed from this key point. Moderate and high intensity workouts, when done for the majority of runs, are just too stressful on your body. I just didn't have enough time to recover, and although my body was adapting, it just couldn't keep up with the demand and the training load that I was putting on it, and eventually I'd become injured. I now know that an appropriate balance of high intensity and low intensity running is the key to maximising training gains and reducing risk of injury. Now specifically, it's thought that 80% of your running should be at low intensity and 20% at high. Now, since switching to this method of training, I've PB'd in the 10k, the half marathon and marathon distances while staying injury free. And that's been about 18 months of really consistent training, with 80% of that composed of what I would have considered before junk miles. So running at a low intensity, those easy miles, if that isn't junk mileage, then what about workouts without a purpose? Runs where you just kind of lace up and you don't have much idea of how hard you're going to be running or how fast and how far you'll go. You're just going out for a run. Now, to this argument, I agree and kind of disagree. When I'm training towards a specific goal, let's say a marathon, I want the majority of the runs that I'm doing to have a purpose. So I'm running hill reps today because that will increase my leg strength and mental resilience. Or I'm running in zone 2 today to help my body adapt and to get better at resisting fatigue. And that's where a plan really comes to the fore. Every workout and its training effect has already been thought through, it's been balanced, and it's there for me to follow without too much thinking, and that's how I like it. But what about outside of training for a specific race? Is any workout that interrupts the 80-20 balance potentially junk mileage? I don't think so, and outside of training for a specific purpose, I like to be able to run park runs a bit harder than I normally would. I like to enter a few more races and generally just have a bit more fun and a bit more flexibility with my running. I might go for a trail run and see a sweet downhill section that I want to run down fast for no other reason really than the exhilaration you get from your legs moving at top speed whilst picking your way through technical terrain. Or I might run alongside my wife and have a good catch up and help her through a workout, or just get outside to blow the cobwebs out. In many ways it helps me to prepare for the next training block. 18 weeks of rigidly sticking to a plan has mental challenges as well as physical ones. Taking a few weeks to run however you feel helps to keep everything fresh and keep that running mojo intact. In some ways you might say, well, actually this training period does then have a purpose. It's to kind of refresh the mind and soul, ready for another big training block. And therefore each run kind of has a purpose. But there can also be times, I think, during training when for one reason or another you're just not feeling up to the workout on the plan. Often when that happens, I usually tell myself that's definitely when I have to really push myself out there and to go and do that workout. And sometimes it can be about flexing that discipline muscle. But sometimes it might be more beneficial to kind of deviate from the plan. Let's say you have a speed session lined up, but you can't face it that day. Perhaps you've got a little niggle or something that you know if you just sort of push it quite hard, then it's going to sort of exasperate that niggle and maybe make it worse. So it might be better to put in some zone 2 miles that day, or even just back off and take a rest. That might be just what you need to feel like you can perform at your best for the speed session that's coming up the next day, so that you can recover and feel kind of injury free rather than push it and keep that niggle going until it becomes something worse. Or it might just lift you out of whatever kind of a bit of a funk that you're in. Or maybe it might be better for your mental health rather than your physical health. So is there a clear answer as to what constitutes a junk mile? I think the answer is so dependent on your goals and where you're at in your kind of running journey. And I think I'd rather get rid of the term altogether, especially as it could refer to any type of running. Too many slow miles, that's potentially junk mileage. Too much speed work, that's junk mileage. Not running for a specific purpose, well, that can be junk miles as well. Perhaps a better term, although less catchy, would be something like less than efficient, or maybe slightly more catchy, risky running. Too much slow, moderate, fast, or without purpose running is less than efficient and potentially risky due to the increased risk of injury. So I think, again, once more, that balance is the key. I'd love to hear what you think though, and what your experience of this has been. Let me know down in the comments below. So for me, junk mileage is difficult to define, but to give you an example, the last time I ran some junk miles, we don't have to go too far back. Last Saturday, park run, supposed to be in zone 2 for the whole of I was running for 2 hours on Saturday, but during that park run, I definitely ran harder for those 3 miles than I should have. Now that's really junk mileage because I'm supposed to be following the 80-20 program, supposed to be doing the whole of those 2 hours in zone 2. So pushing it really hard going into zone 3, maybe even zone 4 at one point, to run those 3 miles, because I just got, as ever, get caught up in the sort of fun of parkrun and the competition, and enjoy that feeling of going fast. That's potentially junk mileage because it's messing with that balance of training, and it won't have a positive impact on my training and the goals, the bigger goals that I'm sort of aiming towards. So that for me is potentially junk mileage. And in that case, it was about going too fast rather than going too slow. So the complete opposite of what I used to think junk mileage was. But then I think the question becomes, well, how do you find the right balance? Well, fortunately for you, that work has already been done. As ever, there's a multitude of different thoughts and styles of training around this topic, but one way that is heavily backed up by current science, and the way that most elite athletes train, and the way that has worked for me over the last 18 months, is the 80-20 method, 80% easy, 20% hard. If you're interested in finding out more, there are links to 8020endurance.com where you can find out more, as well as links where you can connect with me on Strava and other ways in which to support the channel. Wherever you're at with your running journey, I hope you're running happy and healthy. If you haven't already, I would appreciate you hitting that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to check out my channel for plenty of other running related videos and content. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, be the best you.